Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you all something. Life is a trip. It's a journey filled with ups, downs, twists, and turns. And sometimes it feels like no matter how hard you push, no matter how much effort you put in, the doors you're trying to walk through just won't open. You knock, you wait, you pray, you hustle, and still nothing. But here's what I've learned. God will open the right doors at the right time. See, we get frustrated when things don't happen on our schedule. We think we know best. We want it now. We want that job, that opportunity, that relationship, that breakthrough right now. And when it doesn't happen, we start doubting, questioning, wondering if we're even on the right path. But let me tell you something. Delay is not denial. Just because the door isn't open yet doesn't mean it won't ever be. God has a plan bigger than anything you can imagine. And when He's ready, when the time is right, He will swing doors open so wide you won't have to push, pull, or force your way in. That's the kind of God we serve. A God who lines things up perfectly, even when we don't understand. Think about it. Have you ever wanted something so bad, but later on you realized that if you had gotten it when you wanted it, you wouldn't have been ready for it? Maybe it was a relationship that didn't work out, only for you to meet the right person later. Maybe it was a job you didn't get, only to land something even better down the road. Maybe it was a dream you thought was slipping away, but in reality it was just marinating, getting prepared, so that when you finally stepped into it, you could handle it. See, God is in the business of preparation. He's not just going to open a door because you're eager. He's going to open it when you're ready. And when He does, ain't no man, no situation, no obstacle that can keep you from walking through it. So, I don't know what you're waiting for right now. I don't know what you've been praying about, stressing over, or feeling discouraged about. But I do know this. If you trust God's timing, you'll see that every closed door was just protection. Every delay was just preparation. And every struggle was just a setup for something greater. So stop banging on doors that ain't meant for you. Stop trying to force what isn't ready. Keep your faith, keep your focus, and when it's time, God is going to open that door and nothing will be able to shut it. Let me tell you all something. God's timing is perfect. Now, I know that's easy to say, but when you're out here struggling, waiting on a blessing, and feeling like nothing is working in your favor, it can be hard to believe. I've been there. I know what it feels like to want something so bad and feel like God is just taking His sweet time delivering it. But let me tell you what I've learned. If you rush it, if you try to force something before it's time, you're going to mess up the very thing God is trying to bless you with. See, we live in a world where everybody wants things right now. We got fast food, fast internet, fast money schemes, you name it. But God? Well, He don't work like that. He's not on your schedule. You're on His. And the moment you truly understand that, life gets a whole lot easier. Because instead of stressing about when something is going to happen, you start trusting that when it happens, it'll be exactly when it's supposed to. Now, let me hit you with something real. If God gave you everything you asked for when you asked for it, you wouldn't be able to handle it. Think about that. Some of you all have been praying for a blessing, but if God dropped it in your lap right now, you wouldn't even know what to do with it. You're asking for a big job, but you ain't ready for the responsibility. You're asking for love, but you haven't even learned to love yourself yet. You're asking for success, but you still got some lessons to learn before you can handle it. See, God ain't just handing out blessings. He's preparing you for them. And preparation takes time. Look at any great athlete, any successful person, anybody who has ever achieved something big in life. They didn't just wake up one day and become great. They put in work. They went through challenges. They had to wait, grow, and develop before they were truly ready for that next level. Let me tell you a little story about my own life. There was a time when I was homeless. I was living in my car, struggling to even figure out where my next meal was coming from. Now, I had dreams. I knew I was meant for something bigger. But for 3 years, just waiting, praying, hoping, wondering if God had forgotten about me. But what I didn't realize was that during that time, God was preparing me. He was teaching me patience, resilience, and faith. He was shaping my character so that when my time finally did come, I'd be ready for it. And when that door opened, it swung open wide. The opportunities, the success, the blessings. I couldn't even believe it. But looking back, I understand now that if all of that had happened any sooner, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I would have lost it. So if you're in a waiting season right now, let me tell you this. Don't rush it. Don't force it. Trust that God sees you. He hears your prayers. He knows your struggles. And when the time is right, when you're ready, He's going to open that door so big that you won't even have to knock. You'll just walk right in. God's timing is never late. It's never early. It's perfect. So don't stress over the wait, because when the blessing comes, it'll be right on time. Let me tell you all something. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean it's not going to happen. Delay is not denial. A lot of folks give up too soon because they think God is saying no, when really He's just saying not yet. And there's a huge difference between the two. See, we live in a world where everybody wants things instantly. If it doesn't happen fast, we start thinking it's never going to happen at all. But God don't work like Amazon Prime. He's not on your schedule. You might be looking at your situation thinking, God, why is this taking so long? But what you don't see is what He's doing behind the scenes. That delay you're facing right now, it's not punishment, it's preparation. God is setting things up, moving things into place, and making sure that when He blesses you, you'll be ready for it. Because let's be real, some of y'all have been praying for a blessing that, truth be told, you ain't ready for yet. You want that promotion, but you're still learning how to lead. You want that relationship, but you ain't even healed from your last one. You want that business to blow up, but you're still figuring out how to manage your money. See, if God gave you everything you wanted when you wanted it, you'd probably mess it up. And He loves you too much to let that happen. So instead, He puts you through a process. And in that process, He teaches you patience, He builds your faith, He strengthens your character, and then, when the time is right, He releases the blessing. Now let me hit you with something real. Sometimes, what feels like a delay is actually protection. Some of y'all been mad at God because He didn't open a certain door for you. But what you don't see is that if He had opened it, it would have led to something that wasn't meant for you. Maybe that job you wanted would have drained you. Maybe that relationship you thought was perfect would have broken you. Maybe that opportunity you were chasing would have distracted you from something greater. I can tell you from my own life, there were plenty of times I thought I was ready, but God said, hold up, son, not yet. I remember back when I was struggling trying to get my big break in comedy. I was working hard, putting in the time, knocking on doors, but nothing was happening. And I started thinking, maybe this ain't for me. But what I didn't realize was that God was developing me. He was building my skills, my discipline, my mindset. And when the opportunity did come, I wasn't just ready, I was prepared to handle it. See, here's what you got to understand. If God is making you wait, it's for a reason. He's not ignoring you. He hasn't forgotten about you. He's just making sure that when He blesses you, you don't just receive it, you keep it. Because getting a blessing too soon is just as bad as not getting it at all. So whatever you're waiting on, whether it's a job, a breakthrough, a dream, or a relationship, don't lose faith just because it hasn't happened yet. Oh, yet is the key word. It's coming. It's already written. And when it shows up, it's going to be bigger, better, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Because God may not show up when you want Him to, but when He does, He's always right on time. Let me tell you all something. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean it's not going to happen. Delay is not denial. A lot of folks give up too soon because they think God is saying no, when really He's just saying not yet. And there's a huge difference between the two. See, we live in a world where everybody wants things instantly. And if it doesn't happen fast, we start thinking it's never going to happen at all. But God don't work like Amazon Prime. He's not on your schedule. You might be looking at your situation thinking, God, why is this taking so long? But what you don't see is what He's doing behind the scenes. That delay you're facing right now, it's not punishment, it's preparation. God is setting things up, moving things into place, and making sure that when He blesses you, you'll be ready for it. Because let's be real, some of y'all been praying for a blessing that, truth be told, you ain't ready for yet. You want that promotion, but you're still learning how to lead. You want that relationship, but you ain't even healed from your last one. You want that business to blow up, but you're still figuring out how to manage your money. See, if God gave you everything you wanted when you wanted it, you'd probably mess it up. And He loves you too much to let that happen. So instead, He puts you through a process. And in that process, He teaches you patience, He builds your faith, He strengthens your character, and then, when the time is right, He releases the blessing. Now, let me hit you with something real. Sometimes, What feels like a delay is actually protection. Some of you all been mad at God because he didn't open a certain door for you. But what you don't see is that if he had opened it, it would have led to something that wasn't meant for you. Maybe that job you wanted would have drained you. Maybe that relationship you thought was perfect would have broken you. Maybe that opportunity you were chasing would have distracted you from something greater. I can tell you from my own life, there were plenty of times I thought I was ready, but God said, "Hold up, son. Not yet." I remember back when I was struggling, trying to get my big break in comedy. I was working hard, putting in the time, knocking on doors, but nothing was happening. And I started thinking, maybe this ain't for me. But what I didn't realize was that God was developing me. He was building my skills, my discipline, my mindset. And when the opportunity did come, I wasn't just ready, I was prepared to handle it. See, here's what you got to understand. If God is making you wait, it's for a reason. He's not ignoring you. He hasn't forgotten about you. He's just making sure that when he blesses you, you don't just receive it, you keep it. Because getting a blessing too soon is just as bad as not getting it at all. So whatever you're waiting on, whether it's a job, a breakthrough, a dream, or a relationship, don't lose faith just because it hasn't happened yet. Yet is the key word. It's coming. It's already written. And when it shows up, it's going to be bigger, better, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Because God may not show up when you want him to, but when he does, he's always right on time. Let me tell you something. Everybody wants the promotion, but not everybody wants the preparation. See, we live in a world where folks want to go from 0 to 100 overnight. They want the success without the struggle, the reward without the work, the title without the training. But let me tell you right now, before God promotes you, he's going to prepare you. And if you ain't ready for what you're asking for, he ain't going to give it to you just yet. See, you don't get to skip the process. You don't get to wake up one day and be great without putting in the work. That's not how life works, and that's definitely not how God works. If he's got a big plan for you, and trust me, he does. He's going to take you through a season of preparation. And if you try to rush through it, if you try to skip steps, you're only hurting yourself. Let me break it down for you. Imagine you're a young athlete and you got dreams of playing in the big leagues, you got talent, you got potential, but you ain't never trained a day in your life. Now, let's say somebody just hands you a contract, puts you on a team, and throws you in the game. You might get one good play in, but after that, you're going to be exposed real quick because you wasn't ready. You didn't build the endurance, the skill, the discipline. And now, instead of rising to the top, you're struggling just to keep up. See, that's why God don't just hand you the blessing. He prepares you for it first. He's not going to put you in a position where you can't handle what's coming. If he's making you wait, it's because he's getting you ready. Now, let me hit you with something real. Sometimes preparation looks like struggle. Sometimes it looks like doors closing in your face. Sometimes it feels like failure. But what you don't realize is that all of that is part of the training. Every challenge, every setback, every disappointment, it's all building you up for what's coming next. I remember back when I was sleeping in my car, broke as a joke, trying to make it in comedy. Man, I was struggling. And I kept asking God, why? Why am I going through this? Why is it taking so long? But what I didn't understand back then was that God was training me. He was building my resilience. He was teaching me how to survive, how to stay strong, how to keep going even when it looked like all hope was lost. Because let me tell you something. If I'd gotten success too soon, I would have lost it. If I'd blown up before I was ready, I wouldn't have known how to handle the pressure. And I probably wouldn't be standing here today telling you all this. See, God is not just interested in giving you something. He wants you to be able to keep it. He wants you to thrive in it. And that's why he takes you through the process. That's why he allows certain struggles. Because when you finally get to where you're supposed to be, you won't just be there by luck. You'll be there because you earned it. So if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're wondering why it's taking so long, let me tell you, your time is coming. But right now you're in training. You're being shaped, molded, and prepared for something bigger than you can imagine. So stop fighting the process. Stop trying to rush God's timing. Instead, lean into it, learn from it, grow through it. Because when your moment finally comes, you don't want to just be in the room. You want to be ready to own it. And trust me, when God promotes you, can't nobody take it away from you. Let me tell you all something. Sometimes the best thing God can do for you is not open a door. I know that don't feel good to hear. I know, it don't make sense when you're standing there, knocking, praying, hustling, trying everything you can to get through that door. And it just won't open. But let me tell you, every closed door ain't rejection. Sometimes it's protection. See, we get so caught up in what we want, we don't even stop to think, is this really good for me? We just assume that if we want it, it must be right. But God sees what we don't see. He knows what's on the other side of that door. And if He's keeping it shut, it's because He's got something better for you down the road. Think about it. How many times have you looked back on something you wanted so bad, but later you realized that not getting it was the best thing that ever happened to you? Maybe it was a job you didn't get, only to land one that paid more. Maybe it was a relationship you thought was the one, only for God to send you somebody way better. Maybe it was a business deal that fell through, and at the time you were mad, but later you found out that deal would have ruined you. See, rejection is just redirection. When God closes a door, He's not saying no, He's saying, I got something better. But you got to trust that. I remember one time early in my career, I had this opportunity that I just knew was going to be my big break. Man, I was hyped. I prayed, I worked, I did everything to make sure I was ready. And you know what happened? That door slammed shut in my face. I was crushed. I started questioning everything. Was I really meant to do this? Did I miss my shot? But what I didn't know at the time was that if I had taken that opportunity, I would have been locked into a bad contract. I would have been stuck in a situation that didn't value me, didn't pay me what I was worth, and would have limited my growth. That closed door, that was God protecting me from stepping into something that looked good but wasn't for me. And later on, I got an opportunity 10 times better. See, some of y'all are trying to force open doors that God is keeping closed. You keep running back to a relationship He already pulled you out of. You keep chasing after a job that ain't meant for you. You keep trying to fit in places where God is trying to move you out of. And you're frustrated because nothing is working. But have you ever thought that maybe that's the point? Maybe God is trying to save you from something. Let me tell you, if something ain't working, stop forcing it. Stop trying to kick down a door that ain't for you. When it's your door, you won't have to beg, you won't have to force, you won't have to stress. That door will open, and when it does, it'll be smooth, it'll be right, and you'll know it was meant for you. So if you're facing a closed door right now, don't get discouraged. Get excited, because that means God has something better on the way. And when you finally walk through that door, you're going to look back and thank Him for every single one He kept shut. Let me tell you all something. Life is going to test you. You're going to go through times when nothing makes sense, when you're doing everything right but still coming up short. You're grinding, you're praying, you're trying to stay positive, but all you're getting in return is delay, disappointment, and closed doors. And in those moments, you got two choices. You can let frustration take over, or you can stand on faith. Now, frustration is easy. Anybody can get mad when things don't go their way. Anybody can throw in the towel and say, maybe this just ain't for me. But faith is different. Faith says, even though I can't see it, I know it's coming. Faith says, even though it's taking longer than I want, I trust that God is working it out. Faith says, no matter what it looks like right now, I know my blessing is on the way. See, frustration will make you quit too soon. Some of y'all are right there, right on the edge of your breakthrough, but because it's taking longer than you expected, you're about to walk away. And let me tell you, don't do it. Don't let frustration steal what God has for you. Because the moment you let go of faith, you start making bad decisions. You start settling. You start moving in desperation instead of destiny. And that's how you end up taking a path that was never meant for you. I remember times in my life when I was frustrated beyond belief. I couldn't see how I was going to make it. I was broke, struggling, doors closing left and right, but I had a choice. Either I let frustration win, or I held on to faith. And let me tell you, every single time I chose faith, God showed up. Every single time. Not always when I wanted, not always how I expected, but always right on time. So hear me when I say this. Stop letting frustration control your life. Stop speaking negativity over your future. Stop doubting what God has already promised you. Hold on to faith even when it don't make sense. Because when you choose faith over frustration, you're telling God, I trust you. And when you trust Him, He will always come through. Let me tell you all something. When God opens a door for you, can't nobody shut it. I don't care who don't like you, who doubts you, who's trying to block your blessing. When God says it's your time, it's your time. Period. See, a lot of folks spend too much time worrying about people. You're worried about who's talking behind your back, who ain't supporting you, who's trying to stop your progress. But let me tell you, they don't matter. Because when God decides to elevate you, no amount of hate, no rejection, no obstacle can stop what He's got planned for you. People will try to put limits on you. They'll tell you what you can't do, what you ain't qualified for, what you don't deserve. But see, what they forget is they don't hold the key to your destiny. God does. And when He unlocks that door, you ain't going to have to force it open. You ain't going to have to beg. You ain't going to have to manipulate. That door is going to swing wide open. And all you got to do is walk through it. Now, let me hit you with something real. When God opens a door, it's already yours. But here's the thing. You got to be ready for it. A lot of folks pray for opportunities, but when the door finally opens, they're too scared to step in. They start questioning themselves. Am I really ready for this? Do I really deserve this? That's the enemy trying to plant doubt in your mind, because he knows that once you step into what God has for you, there ain't nothing he can do to stop you. I've had doors slammed in my face my whole life. People told me I'd never make it, that I wasn't good enough, that I should quit. But every time I kept my faith, God opened another door, one even bigger than the one I was knocking on. So if you're out here worrying about people trying to block you, stop. They ain't got that kind of power. If it's meant for you, it's yours. And when God opens that door, trust me, it will stay open. Walk through it with confidence, because what He has for you, no one can take away. Listen, y'all, if there's one thing I need you to walk away with today, it's this: God's got you. No matter what it looks like, no matter how long it's taking, no matter how many doors have closed in your face, when it's your time, it's your time. And can't nobody stop what God has already planned for you. So stop stressing over delays. Stop getting frustrated when things don't happen on your schedule. Stop trying to force open doors that ain't meant for you. Instead, trust the process. Trust that every struggle, every setback, every no is just setting you up for something greater. Because when God finally opens that door, you ain't going to have to fight for it. You ain't going to have to beg for it. It's going to open so smooth, so perfectly, that you'll know without a doubt this was God. So hold on to your faith. Keep pushing, keep preparing, keep believing. Because when your moment comes, it's going to be bigger, better, and more powerful than you ever imagined. And when you step into that blessing, you're going to look back and thank God for every closed door, every delay, every obstacle, because it all led you to exactly where you're supposed to be. Now go on and walk in confidence. Your door is coming, and when it opens, can't nobody shut it.